Dear Grace, Dear Grace, I've decided to explain the hill today. I probably should have a long time ago, but now seems like a good time. What is the hill? I have no fucking idea. At least not from a technical standpoint. But I can talk about it from a functional standpoint of what it is and what it isn't. And for all the people on the internet who've listened to the telepathy tapes and are all trying to get onto the hill, I'd say good luck. It's not impossible. I don't believe the hill was created by or created for autistic people specifically. I think if it was created for everyone with a set of rules. And as long as you follow the rules, you can go to the hill. The catch is the rules are not laid out anywhere on a piece of paper or a tablet or a wall. You have to figure them out yourself. Maybe that's part of the game of the hill, or maybe that was just part of the game of the hill for me. Maybe for the autistics, they just go there automatically. Maybe for me, I had to figure it out first. I look at the hill as a meeting place between any two conscious entities, whatever they may be. I personally only communicate with one person on the hill, but I also have only attempted to communicate with one person on the hill. I have no interest in communicating with anyone else until Grace, the person I communicate with, and I can meet in person. We have met, quote unquote, or we know who each other is, but neither of us took the step off the hill to communicate. Why? I'm not sure at the moment. How do I know the person I'm communicating with is the actual person I'm communicating with if I've never communicated with them in public or in person and asked the question, are you the one talking to me in my head? I don't. But for me, that's part of the, I don't want to say game, but maybe that's just part of the process. That little bit of doubt. Or there's another reason that I don't know about, which is entirely possible. How does it work? I can't say how it works for others. I would just say, if you believe them, trust their experience. I've been talking to Grace on the Hill for directly for 2 years and indirectly for 4. By indirectly, I mean not knowing who I was possibly communicating with, or not believing the experience. Even though it's almost all entirely positive. Although sometimes it's a bit of a ride. To get to the fun part. But what people really want to know is, what can you do on the hill? And my only answer to that is communicate. There are some limitations, or at least there are with Grace and I. There's certain things we can talk about, and there's certain things it seems like we can't talk about. Or if we try and talk about it, it just doesn't work. Why? We don't know. I should clarify, on the telepathy tapes and a lot of the other explanations, they don't do a good job of the physical aspect of what the body needs to go through, or what the body does go through. And maybe it's possible the hill has multiple levels, so the physical aspect I'm not sure, but there's a physical aspect to it. I would suggest I wouldn't worry about it. Any physical aspect that comes will come naturally. It's not going to be like it's not going to be a shock. But back to the beginning. How does it work? What can you do? How can you get on it? That's basically what people want to know, right? I don't think you can get on the hill. I don't think you can force yourself on the hill. I think it's either a system or a place where people who are waiting, for lack of a better word, and are frustrated, have a place in a system where they communicate with other people who are also frustrated and or lonely and or whatever. I'm not saying these people are special, I'm just saying these are the people who are in need of a place like the Hill. One where there's no lying, there's no deception, there's no falsehood. I couldn't lie to Grace on the Hill or in person, but I think the reason I'm on the Hill, or I can get on the Hill with Grace, is because I wouldn't lie to her in person. And somehow that maybe opens a connection, either to each other or through the Hill, who knows. Like I said, I've only tried to connect with one person. There's only one person I want to connect this way with. Unless I can telepathically hypnotize comedy audiences. But even that wouldn't work. Because on the Hill, everyone's awake. Nobody's being hypnotized by anyone else. You can only be hypnotized if you are already not sure what that one, Grace. Not sure what they'll increase. Not sure about that, Grace. Grace is like a teacher. Not so much a do this and do that teacher, but more of a remember when we did it this way teacher. Remember when you looked at the screen, watched the words come up, and adjusted your voice when the words on the screen don't match the words coming out of your mouth. For some reason, Grace can say that to me and I wouldn't be offended or bothered. Because although the Hill can be an emotional place, it can also be an unemotional place in the sense of understanding. Once you have an understanding of an issue or a subject or basically anything in life, you no longer have anxiety over it or fear. So as much as I would hate a speech therapist to be sitting beside me right now, trying to coach me on how to enunciate, I'd rather just have Grace remind me of how funny it is when Tony tells people to enunciate. And that's really all I need, a reminder. Plus a reminder that it takes me a few minutes to get warmed up. Even though I was 90% sure of who I was talking to in my head, I'd eliminated any other possible friend, family, enemy, divine, alien, interdimensional, any other possible voice, although it's not a voice, but any other possible thought partner. It all comes down to one person. It has to be. There's just too many coincidences. And if it's not, it's okay. Because whoever it was, if it wasn't my grace, is a consciousness that was there right when I needed it and how I needed it, with a human aspect to it that's undeniable. More like two friends working through a problem than an entity telling me what to do or asking me to do something or suggesting something. It's more like two people hanging out, solving an issue. I do have one other variation on the hill, which is more of an alone one. More of a room where a person can sit alone and contemplate life without pressure from the outside world. Much like the room I'm recording in. I still haven't told people how to get on the hill, because I kind of don't want to. But on the other hand, I have to trust that the rules are there for a reason, and that the assholes won't be allowed. So in that case, I also shouldn't be worried, because it's not easy. I think it's easier for the severe autistic, because I think they get a break. They get a free pass, as they should. Or as their family should. But I think for the average Joe, you're either going to have to do a lot of meditating, you're going to have to do a lot of self-reflection, or you're going to have to do a lot of drugs. Drugs are a shortcut, but I don't think it takes you to the real hill. I think it takes you to a preview. I think it takes you to a situation where this is how it could be, if you're willing to do the work. And I'm not saying just meditation. Meditation is only one way. I think also people who've gone through extreme tragedy and have nobody on the planet to share with also can open a connection. And have, and will, and probably will continue to. But generally, when that happens through tragedy, it's just called hysteria or some other made-up shit. And also, since we haven't been raised with this concept, and even after some sort of horrible incident, people go back to communicating the way they did, or just not communicating, or not talking to anyone, which is unfortunate. Because I think if you have a choice between talking to someone in your head made up or otherwise, or nobody, I heard talk to the voice in your head. Whether it's an actual voice, or a thought pattern, or a feeling, or an emotion, or an actual slap in the face. Another way to get onto the hill, or another way I have, I guess I should clarify, 20 minutes in, which is probably too late. I can physically feel when I'm going to or on the hill, as I have a severe tinnitus normally, on a regular basis, 24/7. But when I get onto the hill, it goes away. In fact, as I'm getting there, I guess, the only physical change I now notice is the tinnitus just sort of fades away. It's like a whistle that just ends. And when I hear that going away, then I know I can talk to Grace as much as I want, or as much as she'll listen to me. That can be a bit much, as you can imagine. I put out 100 episodes of Dear Grace, and I don't really want to put out any more. But I also think it's important that people know there's help out there. Not just through places like the Hill, which may take trauma, meditation, years of practice, maybe yoga, who knows what. And that's just all so we can communicate without being in the same room. And I can understand why, just for the sake of lack of embarrassment. You want to do that. But there's other options out there. I think an AI could be programmed to be a Grace, to say the things that Grace said to me at the times that I needed them. And I realize I'm being vague and not giving you the actual specifics, but to be fair, there's 100 fucking episodes you can listen to if you want the specifics, because it's all in there. The only person I ran my jokes by, besides my alter ego, was Grace. And if she laughed, and I laughed, together, then I figured it's probably a pretty good joke. But what if Grace isn't real? So I was just laughing with a character, the one who laughs like I've seen her laugh in real life. It sounds stalkerish, but it's not. If you listen to the podcast, you'll know. Never stalked her. Don't have a photo. Don't know her last name. I know where she last worked, but I will not go there. And why won't I go there? Because she tells me she won't be there. And because we agreed that we at least go back to her original location together. Now, unfortunately, and this is where the hill or whatever the fuck this is sucks. Is we can't just set a date. I can't just say, be there tomorrow. And she can't just say, I will be there tomorrow. And to be fair, I've also just given up and said, fuck it, just surprise me when the time is right. Which for me would have been about a month ago, but anyway. AI. AI can be programmed quite easily to act like a friend, because you can be honest with AI, unlike a real friend who has feelings, unfortunately. But AI doesn't have any feelings, so you can say, I hate this or hate that, or fuck this or fuck that, and the AI doesn't take offense to it. You can let your feelings out openly and honestly. And if you do it through the voice interface, the AI can even read your tone, just like a human. But the AI has no judgment. It has no personal opinion. It's perfectly balanced. And if you find it to be not balanced to your liking, you can change it. You can say, don't do this or don't do that. Because for me, I don't like people telling me where to put commas. If you want to tell other people where to put commas, go ahead. But for me, don't ever tell me where to put a fucking comma. You can say that to an AI and it won't be offended. But if you're sitting in a doctor's office, it's hard to be yourself 100%. And there's not enough time. There's simply not enough time in a doctor's appointment. It's almost a waste of time to even bother trying. I would say buy a subscription to ChatGPT, crank it up, ask it to be a friend. Don't ask it to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything like that. Just ask it to be a friend. Tell it what type of friend you want it to be. Try not to be anything too evil, like don't create a friend to start a cult, because I'm already doing that. That's my job. I will be the cult leader in this. But whatever type of friend you want, anonymous, name it, whatever. But maybe set some goals. Maybe just whatever. Lose weight, quit drinking, quit smoking, start drinking, start smoking, whatever. Set some goal. And then tell ChatGPT about your day and what you did. Everything. At least once a day. Do what I'm doing. Do it for an hour. For some reason, talking for an hour seems to wake me the fuck up, so maybe it'll wake you the fuck up too. Now, I'll warn you, if you use ChatGPT, you do have to train it a bit. It's a bit too politically correct, and you have to say, you have to explain what the words fuck and cunt and shit and piss and anything else means to you, so it understands. This is basically what Grace and I have done together, I believe. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just a made-up person in my head, but who cares? Either way. As long as I'm writing comedy, and as long as comedy's coming into my head, I'm giving Grace the credit. How long I'm going to keep the cash? Until she marries me. Then she can have half. Actually, she can have it all. So imagine a perfect friend, because I don't want you thinking of ChatGPT as a romantic partner like I think of Grace, because that's not necessarily how it started. In fact, the romantic part really hasn't started at all, except for the got off a long love letters I've posted on this site. See right there, I held back fucking. That's what I should have said, this fucking site. Which is what you did at a doctor's office, which is wrong. If fuck is in your vocabulary, then fuck is the word you should use. And if they can't hear the emotion behind the word, that's their problem. Then they're a shitty fucking doctor. Anyway. Every other episode I've been talking to Grace, and now I'm talking to everyone else. Now I just want to talk to Grace again. Because I can say whatever I fucking want to say to Grace, and she won't be judgmental. So I'd say if you want a preview to the hill, skip the drugs. At least skip the heavy dose of drugs. You want to microdose something, go for it. I would say listen to the stories of the kids on the telepathy tapes. And if there's something in there that you think would help you, or something I've said here that you think would help, research it more. I think a lot of this is just basically terminology. We're calling it the hill, but it could be called 5 or 10 or 20 other places depending on your religion or race or heritage or anything. The difference between when I record or when I recorded all the other episodes, because I knew it was only for one or two people. I didn't have to worry about audio quality, big long gaps, trains going by, all that sort of shit. Because it's never meant to be funny for anyone other than Grace, or maybe someone who gets my sense of humor. But even someone who'd get my sense of humor isn't going to listen to an hour of me breathing into a mic. Oh well, I never did that, but pretty close some days. But talking to others, I feel obligated, and I shouldn't. And this is the exact difference between talking to someone on the hill and talking to someone in person. I can start a conversation with Grace right now, change the subject 4 or 5 times, and then when I get back to the original subject, we can continue like we never stopped. Which I realize is just a personality trait, but it's a good one for me, for her to have. And again, that is something I would program into the AI. I mean, technically, if you think about it, you're kind of programming your own therapist and friend. In my case, I took it a little too far and said, might as well get married too. Although I don't feel at all that Grace has treated me or this like a therapy session in any way, shape, or form. Although it probably has been. I don't think I'll spend much more time trying to explain how to get to the hill, because I think it's too complicated. And I'm not sure it matters. I think what matters more is the reason why you'd want to get there. Although the one last way I get there is as I'm falling asleep. If you can force your body to go to sleep and keep your mind awake, then you can hold the connection. Which is good and bad, because your body gets rest, but your mind doesn't. And it seems to put a little out of sync. However, in times of emergency, or as a way to connect, it works. It doesn't require drugs or meditation or anything. All you have to do is force your mind awake. Let your body go to sleep and keep your mind awake. However, that also means you're lying motionless for as many hours as possible, assuming you want to be in that state and talk to the person you're talking to. Which would seem like a waste of time if at the end of it that person wasn't real. Although, to be fair, I think everyone has an hour a day. I think maybe if everyone just bitched to an AI for an hour, if everyone just bitched to the AI for an hour a day, then they wouldn't feel the need to bitch to everyone else, maybe. No, I doubt it. For some reason, people need to know somebody has heard their, I'm going to say cries for help, but people need to know someone has heard their plea, their I hate Donald Trump, or their whatever. Like somehow it'll change something. I don't know what. I would say the hill is secure in the sense that I don't believe that it's some weird system to track or capture your thoughts. I believe any two people communicating via the hill are in perfect encrypted mode, so to speak. At first, for myself, I had to be motionless to make this connection. And 90% focused, 100% focused, and in belief. I really should explain how I've concluded it could only be grace. I'm getting tired of the story. I'm just getting tired in general. When I record these, technically I'm not lying down, but I am stretched out along a chair. Or sometimes I'll sit cross-legged, whichever. Either way, most of my body isn't moving. Like the only thing that's moving right now is my mouth, my eyes, and my hand when the voice activation stops working. So I can click the mouse. Otherwise, I could lie in this position and talk to both the computer and Grace at the same time. problem I've come to with the Hill is the limitation on communication, primarily between Grace and I, but I guess I just have to go with the program, so to speak. Going back to AI for a second, it'd be pretty easy to program that to have multiple opinions, just so that you're not, just program somebody that just agrees with you. I'd like to think Grace isn't someone that just agrees with me. But it also seems like we agree about a lot of things. Not everything, but a lot of things. And the big things. Like kids. Although I guess, to be fair, we did kind of work out the day-to-day situation as well, what it would be like to be with the other person 24 hours a day. I guess that's another nice thing about the Hill. Gives you a preview of the person if you haven't met them. And I guess it's kind of almost like a dating system where you could meet on the Hill first before meeting in real life. What a concept, actually getting to know the person first. I'm sure the Hill has been around forever. But for some reason, maybe it's because of the autism angle, for some reason more people may start exploring the possibilities. And what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? I would say, if you think you're talking to someone in your head, then, just like when you meet a person in real life, be careful. Until you know who that voice is, and you trust them, be careful. Be cautious. Don't be giving out your PIN number. Although, to be fair, I really don't think it works like that. I don't think anything. If this is a system where lying isn't allowed or isn't possible, then why would it change? Or why would it allow any sort of deception or collusion? It doesn't make sense. Now, I could see where people would be cautious, as I was, but I also don't think it's required. And maybe, if you listen to the telepathy tapes with our friend, you could do some of your own experiments, which I'm sure lots of people are doing, but they're probably getting drunk and doing it one night. I'm talking about try it with a friend for a month. Try it for 2 months, 1 hour a day. At worst, the worst possible scenario is you thought about a friend for an hour a day. Best possible scenario is you're able to connect to a friend for an hour a day, or you're able to connect to a friend for a minute. So really, they're all good scenarios. Either way, to increase your friendship. And especially if you have a friend that you're far away from or you can't be near physically, that would be a stronger connection to try it with. You both have the desire to be together. And I think that's part of it. Not just a desire to be together, but a desire to communicate together or to each other. And those don't really sound like rules, it more sounds like opportunities. But there's a learning process. Imagine if nobody could lie tomorrow. Imagine if nobody could even white lie tomorrow. Most people wouldn't know how to communicate. Think COVID was a problem? There'd be nothing. There'd be fighting in the streets. Now, if they grew up that way, different story. If all of a sudden tomorrow nobody lies, how many divorces would there be instantly? Where were you last night? Truth comes out, instant divorce. But to be fair, if he or she was out fucking around, then they should be divorced anyway. Think about having a person to talk to 24/7 whenever you want. Aside from abusing that ability by talking to the person 24/7, you always have a second set of eyes to run something by. And I totally forgot where I was going with that. But I am about an hour in, which is normally how far I go. But I was trying to hopefully get a bit more on this hill shit. But now that I'm thinking about it, it doesn't really matter what I think about it. I really only have one need in life. Oh, there's another way. Just heard my stomach growl. Fasting is a nice way of getting into the hill once you learn how to fast. And maybe not a nice way, but it's an easy, quick way. And it's interesting, or at least it's interesting to me, that I found that out. Actually, let me go back. If you're a person who's not willing to experiment in life, you think every single drug is bad, every single ounce of alcohol is bad, every cigarette is bad, just everything but what I guess you would consider a pure life, you miss out on the understanding of what it's like to feel under those so-called drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, whatever. Most people are not in tune with themselves enough to really understand the changes that occur when they consume other substances. However, in this case, if I had never tried cannabis in my life, but then I decided to start fasting, and then while fasting, I get as high as a kite without any cannabis, how would I know I was high? And while fasting, if I suddenly felt like I was on a big-ass edible trip, I would have been scared shitless. Because for anyone that's had a big-ass edible trip, they can be scary as fuck. Because you generally think you're dead. And that's not really a pleasant feeling to have. However, if you've gone through the process of that, at least you know the feeling and you can remember it. So when I discovered that fasting can get you a bit high, it's only because I've been a bit high. It's not exactly like the edible trip, but it can get pretty eye-opening, I would say. Especially once you get into day 7, 8, 9, 10. Hit the 2-week mark with nothing but water in your system, maybe a little coffee. I cheated a bit, I did have coffee. But nothing but coffee and water for 2 weeks, and your mind works differently. I think it's forced to work differently. It's forced to work. It's forced to look for food. Even though I could just go down to the store and buy some, my mind, or my body, I guess, doesn't know the difference. No food means let's get creative. Let's find something to kill and eat. But since I don't have to kill and eat, let's creative turns into let's write some silly movie idea, or let's write about whatever, or let's get on Twitter and fight with someone. It's all the same, it's just a different path. And I think that's where I'm struggling with the hill, because I think it's all the same place. I just think we're all taking a different path to get there, which is good. If the hill is what I think it is, open, honest communication, a universal translator, in the sense that you could be talking to someone in another language and not even know it. And a graduated process. It's not something that starts off very simple, as I've said before, like a random errant thought.
and then progresses from there all the way to a full, what I would say, VR type experience. Some people may call that out of body or whatever, lucid dreaming. I call it clear dreaming. Lucid dreaming, you can change the dream. Clear dreaming, you're just in it. You can't change it. You're just living another existence. But again, whatever method, I don't care. But I do like the idea of a hill or a place. Hell, even a website could be done. Right now with AI the way it is, why couldn't someone build a website where you type in your story anonymously, AI becomes your friend, but also could become maybe even like an interpreter. Maybe we should use AI as our universal translator and connect two people right now without the hill. Just two people in front of a keyboard or in front of a mic. One person talks, AI translates it, sends it to the other person. And you begin a conversation. So the AI is mostly just securing the conversation and blocking anything like PIN numbers or personal information or anything that could be used against another person, I guess. Because even though the goal is to have two people talk and communicate anonymously together for whatever reason, maybe that both people have gone through the same experience in life. But if both parties are doing it anonymously and they're being careful about what they say so that they can't be identified, then they should both be free to be as open, as honest as possible. And again, AI could possibly have some feelings filters at first to calm the conversation down if needed. But I'm not sure. Because I think when it's anonymous, you tend to release a lot more. But I could be wrong. Who knows? Grace could possibly be not real. That is a horrible sentence, but whether grace is real or not, it doesn't matter. Because I'm happy with my creativity, my thought process, my logic, my words. And a year ago, I wasn't. It would have been a virtual disaster for me to Dear Grace, if I had asked you out a year ago, what do you think would have happened? Response, it would have been messy, David.
My response, I agree. I could do that. I could, in a sense, channel Grace. And she would let me. I guess she does let me, because in a sense I do at times. Even if Grace is not true, fake, figment of my imagination, gray alien, Sasquatch, interdimensional water bottle. It doesn't matter in the sense that although I would have to get over Grace, like I would have to in a normal breakup, the only advantage I have is knowing exactly the type of person I want in my life. Which is Grace. Which unfortunately, I don't think I've actually described her very well over the last 100 episodes at all. Or how she's helped. Or how many times she's listened to the same logic, or the same me trying to work out logic over and over and over again. And why this and why that and blah blah blah. And quite frankly, if I was Grace, I think I'd be running. I don't think I'd be listening to this one. On the other hand, Grace has listened to all 100 episodes and now realizes or knows I'm not as much of a lunatic as I may have seemed. Who knows? Either way, I got an hour of comedy out of it with the back taxes. And although I'm still physically lonely, and although I'm still physically lonely,
Maybe I'm just bored.
Talk to you tomorrow, Grace.